Hi there guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I have a fun project to share with you. It's a kind of a vlog. I actually recorded how to make these pillows. I actually bought an insert from a local dollar shop and it's one of these like long pillows, and I have two of these scrap which I got from a scrap bag, and this was from one of the scrap bag that I purchased from Patchwork shop. And then I have a charm pack, and I thought I would like to make a pillow out of this. Instead of just making plain pillows, of course I had to do a patchwork pillow. So I went ahead and kind of like roughly designed it. I wanted something in the strip in the middle, and that is going to be the patchwork pieces. So at the beginning I was actually planning to just simply do a quarter triangle, and I thought that was going to be easy, and I had that kind of in my head how to actually do it, but I'm just starting from scratch. So you'll see me along the way how I actually changed it because I made a mistake. So this is a beautiful collection from Decorum. I think it's an older collection. I'm not sure whether it's still available, but I'll put a link down below so in case you want to check it out. And I wanted something simple, so I start with a charm pack so I don't have to do a lot of cutting. So I want to do a 1/4 inch triangles, and I thought I'm going to just sew a diagonal lines, 2 diagonal lines, and I'm going to cut it off and then put them back together. But it turned out that I made a little smaller, so we'll see how it goes with this project. So I decided I'm going to make a darker color and then a yellow, medium color, which in this case were the browns and yellows, and then there were some lights which I put aside for the background. So once I've got that selected, I pair the medium color with the darker color, which is the blue, and I will start piecing them together to make all these little tiny house girl triangle pieces. So I like to kind of do this in advance, and I usually put this on a design board so that I can carry them off straight to the sewing machine. And I like to use one of this diagonal seam tape. This really helps. I don't mark my piece of squares, so what I do is I use this to guide me to sew the diagonal lines. It really helps because I feel like I can save a lot of time, and it works for me perfectly, especially for smaller pieces. So this is quite big, but I made sure that my diagonal seam tape were all the way to the bottom so that I can actually see where my corners are to put the diagonal, to kind of have a guide. So you can see that I put that to the last side of the tape so that I can actually sew a 1/4 inch seams. And I do this in chain piecing as usual to save up so much time. And I have that on one side of the diagonal piece. I wanted to make sure that I have the other side. So this is where I went wrong. So I should have just stayed there and made more of the squares because I wanted a bigger patchwork piece, but I ended up with smaller house girl triangles. But that's okay. It will turn out fine anyway. So because I didn't have any plan in the first place, this is how it goes. And this is how I guess pattern designers kind of start designing. They make mistakes, and that's why it's well worth buying fabric patterns if you don't want to go through the mistakes, because fabric can be really expensive these days. So appreciate your pattern designers. I guess another thing is because I like to I like to just start sewing and I don't really ponder too much because I know that anyhow and what, it will turn out into something. And I don't really kind of stick to one kind of type of design, or unless if I really wanted it. So for this pattern, I just didn't have any kind of particular pattern to actually follow, and I just wanted to have a block in the middle. So, as I said just now, I made a mistake, and when I started cutting this, I just realized that I actually have a really small half square triangles, and that wasn't going to be big enough for the idea that I had. So this is where I realized I made a mistake. Like I cut it wrong, and I'm like, how am I going to turn this out? It was so funny when I realized that. But anyway, I put it on record, and I wanted to actually just finish it off. So if you can't turn it on, and then I realized that I have made my half square triangles way too small. I love half square triangles, and tiny ones are really cute. So I ended up using it anyway, and just trimming off the dog ears. And now this is the time where I decided to kind of like think, how am I going to make use of this? So this is the time when I changed my pattern. So I had to actually write it back on my notebook and kind of designed a new block for the center patchwork piece. Now that I have all of these tiny half square triangles, I started to kind of like put them together to see how it looks like. It is pretty small. At first I was going to use them all just as is. I was putting them together, and then I didn't like it. So I changed it, and I thought that I would make a different pattern. So this is how roughly the size that I wanted, roughly the size of the block that I wanted to use, and then I ended up redoing that, and I cut some squares to be the center, and I had to actually have some of the background fabric as well. So I cut some of those to make the background fabric for the blocks. So this is a chan dash. I think it's a chan dash of fly, shoe fly block, quilt block. It's a basic quilt block. So I need to just go ahead and do some more cutting, just so that I like the block finish at least, even though I made a mistake. And it turned out well, actually. I love the final block. So I like to put all of the designs on these boards. These are boards that I made using Lori Holt's tutorial. I've been using this for, I think, at least for 8 years. I know these are made of cardboards and they still last. I mean, they're a bit flimsy than they're getting used, but then they're still useful. I feel like they're really useful. I can actually make them from cardboard boxes and cover them with batting, and they just keep all of your pieces together. They're really helpful. I'm going to put a link down below to the tutorial. You can check the blog post out as well. So at this stage, I'm just chain piecing, and because I put all of them in rows, I am actually going to chain piece each rows. So I'm going to do block by block. So I chain piece 3 of the rows together, and then I am going to piece the rows into a block. this stage, I normally just finger press. I know that some people like to go ahead and press it at this point, but I am the kind of person who really like to get things done faster, so this is how I do it. But you can have a small iron next to your machine to just quickly iron them down as well. So I'm just nesting the seams together, making sure they're nested well so that we have a nice point. From this stage on, I was just chain piecing. It was fun. This is like the time where I really enjoy myself. Like I love piecing and chain piecing, especially when you get all of your pieces, all of your units kind of like stacked up. And this is the fun time to actually just piece all of the blocks together. Now that I have all the blocks together, it's time to put them into a kind of a row in the middle of the pillow. So I roughly measured my pillow, and then I decided how big of a border is going to be for the top row and the bottom row, and I'll put that together and just cut the length accordingly to the size of the length of the blocks together as well. I made two pieces because I have two pieces of the pillows. And now it's time for me to make the backing. So as for the backing, I have this one piece of scraps which I got from the Fat Quarters scrap bundle. It's rarely available these days, but then they have like large pieces of scraps that they sell for cheap, and this was one of the one in the mystery scrap bag, and I wanted to use it, so I had to use it. I had to think of how to use it because it's not like big enough for the pillow, so I decided to match it up with the front, and then I can have enough for both of the pillows. So as you can see at this stage, if I'm making something for myself, I really kind of like measure. I'm just like take the previous piece and just put them together. Especially at this stage, like you don't really need a perfect size because it's just making the whole big pillows. So this is how I ended up doing my flap. So this is a big of a flap on the top, and then that's the top piece. And now I'm putting together the back sides with a zipper. So I want to use a zipper because I like the zipper finished, because it just keep the pillows kind of like fluffed up. So this is how I sew on zippers. So I wanted this flap to kind of cover the whole zipper. So I would just put that right there and then sew it from the inside, so you don't see the line of the kind of the lines of my stitching. And then on the other side, I'm just going to simply stitch it onto the zipper. So you just want to make sure that it's the right length as well, just before I sew it down. So I pin it down and I sew it down. So this is how it looks like on the back. The seams are folded inside. So the zipper seams is kind of open like that, but then I don't really mind because it's going to be inside the pillow anyway. Now I'm quilting the front bit of the pillows because I wanted some kind of structure. So I just used batting and I just quilted it on top of the batting. You can use a backing as well, muslin backing, if you're afraid of the batting kind of like washing up. But I usually wash my pillows closed, so the batting will be inside anyway. So I keep that like that. And I wanted to do a little bit of quilting onto the patchwork as well, just to make sure the seams are in place. A simple line is enough for quilting like this. I'm just simply quilting in the ditch so that you don't really see the quilting stitches. So now that I'm done with that, I am done with both of the pieces and I'm going to put the whole pillow together. So this is how I'm doing it. Right sides together and then pinning on the sides. Make sure your zipper is open because otherwise you can't turn it right side round, and just sewing along the sides of these two pieces together. Now that is done, I've done it on my sewing machine. I also went ahead and serged the edges because I have a serger, but if you don't have any, you can also just zigzag this edge or bind it. So there are a couple of like seam finishes that you can do, but I want to be quick and I just serged it. So turn it around and use the poke to poke the corners. Pokey thing, I would call it pokey thing, I don't know what it's called. And that is it. So that's how my pillows turned out, and this is how it looks like on my sofa. I do need to clean my sofa. I have little kids, just excuse me for that, but I actually gifted this pillow away. So if you enjoy this kind of vlog, it takes a while for me to do, but I would love to have you subscribe to the channel and like this video if you like it. So until next time, have a good quilting day. Bye bye.